My name is Kiana Beerworth. What's the title?
Community Outreach Coordinator.
Community Outreach Coordinator at Simpson Street Farm for the Coley Grange.
I am Rex Raleigh. I am the creator and manager of Simpson Street Farm, and with the Grange, I am one of 2 land use coordinators.
Okay. So in the context of what we're doing here in Coley, we are basically forming a coalition of urban farmers, kind of figuring out how to cooperate with each other, to buy things together, bulk amendments for beds, create like a kind of a community dialogue about how we're all growing within this neighborhood, and basically just support each other in this kind of new venture in Coley.
I started this farm about 11 months ago, and I'm selling to 3 different restaurants, and I'll be selling at the Coley Community Market for the first time this year. And I am a member of the collective, or Grange, whatever it's to be called. We do a variety of vegetables alongside, at this point, chicken, eggs is the only livestock component that we have. It's 0.88 acres with a house on it, so it's probably about a half an acre. We aren't doing much fruit yet, but it is a pretty wide variety of produce, everything from leeks to kale to tomatoes to peppers.
It's been estimated that there's about 20 urban farms in Coley, and I think that we have probably maybe 10, something like that, maybe give or take, represented that have been coming to our meetings consistently. We only really started meeting monthly in January, so it's kind of really early in the process, and hopefully we can reach out to all of the farmers that are growing food in this area. Yeah, I mean, basically it is. It's just, I think, from my experience, it's really just anybody. I mean, again, we live really close into Northeast Portland, and it's pretty amazing that we have these huge lots in this neighborhood. A lot of them on Simpson Street are an acre or a little bit under an acre, and so I think that an urban farm is just any plot of land that's being used to its full extent for growing food. And no matter if you're selling it to restaurants or if you're just a home gardener. In our case, we've been trying to figure out that balance. I'm not working right now and just working on the farm, but it's not supporting anybody who lives here at the farm at this point. But we do know a lot of people in this neighborhood that live off of the farms. I think that the way that we spoke with some state grangers who came and kind of talked to us about what it meant to be a granger, and they there was just values of family. It was kind of they're a nonpartisan and kind of grassroots organization is how they describe themselves. So basically it's just ensuring that you have this support system around you, and that farmers are supporting farmers just for that reason, because we all have this thing in common, and we can help each other. I guess is kind of
family on a few different levels.
Yeah.
So you know, protecting the idea of family at the true family level, but also as a family of farmers, as a family within the town, or in this case it would be the city or the neighborhood. I guess one con that we discussed was that the National Grange and the State Grange both have a lobby or a presence in terms of talking to legislators, and the Grange makes decisions as a whole that maybe our neighborhood wouldn't agree with. Most of us are organic, or if we're not organic certified, we practice organic methods, and that in many ways kind of runs contrary to, it sounds like, what the Grange is lobbying for. Because a lot of the Grange members are larger farms.
Yeah,
that,
it's representative of the climate of growing food at this point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something that we're trying to shift away from and create our own kind of, revolution, I guess you could say. by using different methods?
Well, there's a large divide between GMO users and non-GMO users, and a lot of farmers, particularly larger farmers, really see GMOs as a boon in terms of what that technology can do. People like us don't see it as such a great thing. We see it as sort of a huge issue in terms of people putting patents on seeds and taking things to a genetic point of no return.
And it's just, I think at its core, it's just like producing food at a high volume, and that's not what this movement is about. It's about creating pockets of food that neighborhoods or cities can depend on, not depending on food that was shipped, across an ocean or even just from like Arizona.
There is a market, the Coley Community Market, which has been around for I think 3 years now, 5 years. It's been around for 5 years, and it's just moved to a more central location on 42nd Street, which is kind of this neighborhood's business district. And part of what they're trying to do with that move is to promote the businesses. So that will be a large distribution point directly to consumers themselves. There's also talk of starting a green grocer, and people from the city are actually helping to try to bring that dream to fruition.
City government?
The city government, yep. There's a guy, Michael DeMarco, who has an office on 42nd Street and is here actively trying to figure out what we're going to do with this neighborhood and what we're going to do with 42nd Avenue, which is our business district, what direction we want to go. And he's really pushing for creating some sort of a green grocer. So that could be another potential outlet for all of the food that would be grown here.
Plus restaurants, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Plus restaurants. We're selling to 2 that are on 42nd Street. And then we also sell directly to anybody that walks up. But
I mean, just over about 3 blocks that way, Dina and Noah have Sun Blossom Farm, which they're flower CSA, so that's a pretty cool thing.
CSA.
Yeah, CSA. I always forget what it actually stands
Community Supported Agriculture.
Thank you, Community Supported Agriculture. So that means that people can buy a share and then have flowers delivered, or they pick them up by the month, I think, or maybe by the week. And so that's a pretty cool thing.
Stacy from the Side Yard Farm, which has a couple locations. One of them is just, you could almost throw a rock to it if there weren't a bunch of trees over there. She does sort of more high-end restaurant crops. They're more specialty. There's a number of different models in terms of where people are selling. The Coley Community Farm is working with the Trinity Lutheran Church. I don't know that much about exactly what his model is, but it's very different from Stacy's, which is mainly restaurant focused, and we're trying to do a mix. So I started gardening 3 summers ago for the first time, and keeping chickens, and I fell in love with it. I was looking for something to do with my hands, and I had just left a collegiate environment and was really frustrated with that, and felt like I wasn't really learning anything that I wanted to learn, and I saw that as a whole world of learning and potential for learning that held a lot of value for me as somebody that wanted to work with my hands. So, and feeding myself felt really good. Food
is like one of my biggest passions. I went to U of O for 2 years before, U of O, University of Oregon, for 2 years before I moved here in Eugene. And while I was there, I took an urban farm class. They have a really excellent urban farm program. It's one of the most magical places. Just when I decided to move to Portland, I really wanted to find a place like this. I didn't necessarily think that I was going to find a farm to live on, but I wanted to be involved with something because there are a lot of really cool projects going on in Portland. So I found the perfect place, though, and the perfect neighborhood, which is excellent.
Well, you would see a house in the very center of everything, which is a big part of this space, is that we do live on this space. It's, at this point, kind of been all developed around it into some form of food growing space in most of the areas. The front is about a 6,000 square foot garden. There's a greenhouse up front. In the back we have more garden space. We've just planted a little mini orchard, is what I'm calling it. We have a chicken coop with 23 we have a chicken coop with 23 chickens and
We have 2 beehives.
2 beehives, active with bees, which we just received in the last couple of weeks. One of them was a wild-caught swarm. And then there's a large barn building, which was a true barn at one point, when this was a larger farm property back in the 1940s. That barn building is a potential space for the Coley Collective of Farmers, or Grange, whatever the name ends up being.
That was more just a whim. We just thought it would be a pretty farmy thing to do, put a scarecrow up.
Well, I adore food in general. I think we both fall into the foodie category, and living in Portland is a great place to be for that. If I was going to suggest a dish, I have to say my favorite things are fresh avocados and cotija cheese or Oaxacan Mexican cheese, and chorizo with fresh corn tortillas is really wonderful.
Sounds great.
Well, I have a passion for eating kale. I love it on eggs in my dinner and my lunch, and so I say add kale to whatever you're eating.
Kale, definitely.
Find all kinds of ways to make it, salads, anything. My name is Dina Lieberman, and a title, I'm the head gardener at Sun Blossom Farm and the person who does all the bouquet arranging and picking of flowers and taking care of all that aspect.
I'm Noah Lieberman, and I'm the chief digger of holes, and also in charge of marketing, graphic design, business, that sort of stuff.
Well, this is our second season at Sun Blossom Farm, and it's kind of like the vegetable CSA programs. We do a weekly bouquet, or you can get a half share and get every other week bouquet. We thought that would be kind of cool. We've been part of vegetable CSAs before, but we thought how fun, because I have a passion for flowers. I've been gardening since I was a tiny little girl, and every home I've lived in, I've just put in tons of flowers and find so much joy. And the last few years, I've been paying a lot of attention to the honeybee and most of the pollinators, and I've been very worried about it. So I had this dream or this passion to find a bigger piece of land in town, because we had talked about moving out into the country, but we wanted to try something local and very local. So we were lucky to find this little piece of property in town, and our mission is really to provide flowers to our neighbors and very close, and not having all that stuff, that sustainable part about not shipping flowers from far away, not using all the chemicals, and we also have created a space which we call our bee sanctuary. So we're putting tons of flowers in that are just for the purpose of supporting our pollinators, not just people.
It's just been an adventure and really a pleasure to start something together. We both have our own businesses and wanted to, like Dina said, everywhere we've been, we've done a lot of gardening and landscaping and planting of flowers, but this was something kind of taking it to the next level where we could work together and form a business together and sort of be joint owners of this enterprise to create this beautiful space and to turn it into a business that we could sustain itself, right? To be a sustainable flower farm that was both from a environmental standpoint and from a financial standpoint, so that it can keep itself going and make a beautiful space, a sanctuary for bees and for providing flowers for the area.
Well, that's a little bit, that's a little challenge of the education stuff too, because you have the competition of a lot of people with flowers out there, but they're using greenhouses or bringing things in, and we're really doing seasonal flowers. So that really means that in winter you're not having flowers. So our CSA is not running, and on the shoulder seasons we're combining a lot of things like what is really growing, branches, grasses, anything else that we can put into bouquets, so that it's really reflecting what is going on in nature around us. And it is an adventure, because this is just our second year, and this year is very wet, and we're dealing with slugs and all the kinds of things that you get to learn about being in the nature, and it changes from year to year. So this year we're hoping to be more about notice what things come, keep more of a track of everything and see what it's like next year, because every year's different. You know, when the daffodils come or when the tulips come, I'll shift a little. So we're going to have to be flexible. And
Yeah, and that's really the big advantage of using a community-supported agriculture or a CSA, where you have people sign up and share the risk with you. So they're paying ahead of time for the season, and right now our season runs May through August, so it's really mostly just the summer. But you're having people sign up ahead of time, knowing that they don't know what flowers they're getting. They're not buying 12 dozen roses. They're buying a bouquet, and we will give them a bouquet of something. And they will get one each week, or whatever they sign up for. But that gives us the ability to keep going, and so we're sharing the risk of changing weather and season and stuff.
I don't know of anybody else doing it this small scale. I know there's local flower farmers, and I get the impression, I have not connected up with them, but I get the impression they have larger, bigger lots of land, more of the greenhouse, it's more of a bigger production, and we're pretty small scale. And for me, I really want it to be about community. Ideally, I would love it that our neighbors are walking up and getting flowers or stopping by, and we really like community, and we want to create community space. And so we've been trying to do, work days and potlucks, and we do donate money to bee causes, so organizations. So we're really trying to figure out how to create community, be here, and it's just new, so we're getting the word out. People are stumbling upon us and going, "Oh, you're tucked back here." And, yeah.
Well, we try to do at least a couple every season, usually at the beginning and the end, as far as having.
In the garden, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have potlucks out there, and then we in a work party, and we certainly are always open to volunteers as well. And we actually even offer sort of a trade scenario for the CSA. So if you wanted to come and work periodically in exchange for flowers, we do that as well. But we do have work parties where we try to get everybody together and pull weeds or dig or plant or whatever needs to be done around the yard, and share food together as well. I guess my aim and vision for it really, and I think we're already getting close to the first step, is just that the farm pays for itself. I don't know that a farm of this size, and with our goal of really only doing seasonal flowers, so they're only, we're not doing a big greenhouse, we're not bringing anything in the winter, I don't think it's something that would support our family. But as long as the farm can pay for its own costs as far as seeds and flowers and water and compost and the things like that to be able to keep it going, then I think that's successful. I think so. I mean, I think at some point it would be great if the farm could sustain at least one employee. I think that's a possibility in the future, that there could be enough work for someone to be out there on a full-time basis. I don't know if it's enough for multiple people, but perhaps. So maybe at some point we'd have some farm interns or people that could come in and learn about farming and receive some pay for their work.
So for me, the excitement is to be around people who have the same passion as I do, even though I'm only flower person in there, but everybody else who cares so strongly about doing things locally, feeding their community, creating community, it's very exciting to me. So I would say for me, the connection would be being connected with other people, like-minded, doing things to change their community, to create community, and also as a support system, because we're learning. We're both learning. Farmers, there's always things we can learn, and it's so nice to feel like you could call on somebody else who's figured it out, And when we had our work day, it was mostly the people from our collective that showed up, and working with them, you just get to know them better, and oh, they have a strength in this, or this person has a passion for bees, oh, we can connect, all these things that make you feel like, oh, we're part of a community.
Yeah, I think there's also sort of economic or business benefits in addition to the community and education and shared resources benefits. One of the things to build on that is the shared tools, and the concept of having a repository or a shared tool program where you can share larger items, maybe a rototiller or things like that around the community. But there's also the idea of, because we can talk to each other, we can also be sure we're not, two people aren't growing the same thing and trying to sell it to the same person. We can help market together, and we've actually gotten a lot of referrals in business that way from another local farmer who's also a chef and does catering and things. So she'll say, oh, I'm doing this wedding and they need flowers. Hey, you should talk to these people, and that really is a very helpful word of mouth. Communication and marketing opportunities are really big there to all know who's around you and what they're selling, so you can pass that on to other people. Right now we focus primarily on our CSA, and we do have a few weddings that we're doing this season, and we're also looking at the farmers market.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just a passion, it's my joy, and I feel like I'm lucky that I can do work that is sort of meditative and healing for me. And so, like we were saying about sustainability, or that it's enough because it makes me healthy and happy to be out in that space. And at the end of my other work day, because I'm also a teacher, preschool teacher, which can be long and tiring, it's nice to have that restorative and healing space to be.
Yeah, it's just everywhere we've been, and then this just feels like a bigger scale. It's just nice to feel like you're doing something to make the world a better place, making your environment more alive and more beautiful. And I'm really definitely excited about taking care of the bees. I'm really concerned about our pollinators and the loss of bees and the things that have been going on with that. So everything we can do to help support them. We don't have any hives yet, but we're definitely planting things that that are helpful and that the bees love, so that they can find the food and pollens that they need. We have many different types of pollinators that come every summer, and we have neighbors who have hives, and we hope to get hives as well. And we also donate 5% of all of our revenue to bee charities to help the bees.
And really being conscious of a lot of things I plant, and not picking too much, leaving stuff for them, and certain things that are really just for them, and making sure there's early season and late season thing, which is very helpful for the bees.
Right, rather than a somewhat typical farm where you plant 10,000 dahlias. Like, we have a whole range of all different kinds of flowers that are blooming all different times throughout the year, so there's always something blooming. It's not just a huge production crop. It's more about
Diverse.
diversity and